This is CBC Vancouver News.
I need to go to London Drugs, but the London Drugs is closed.
London Drugs under cyber attack.
Couldn't go in because their computers don't work, or I guess their system.
The BC-based drugstore shutters all 80 locations and positions pharmacy staff out front to help customers. Plus, a growing movement descends on BC's biggest university.
And we're not leaving until the changes have been made.
Protesters at UBC join the call for an end to the war in Gaza and for the university to divest from Israel. Also,
into overtime, and the Canucks have done it.
Canucks fans still riding that Game 4 high.
But it was a pretty darn exciting 4 minutes of hockey to get 3 goals.
We hear your playoff rituals ahead of the game that could send Vancouver to the next round.
We always had our jerseys on to watch the games, yeah.
And the towels. We always try to collect all the towels.
Hello, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We have an update in one of last week's stabbings that has left residents in White Rock on edge. A man has now been arrested in the attack that killed a man. 26-year-old Kulvinder Singh Sohi died from his injuries along the promenade Tuesday night. It was the second stabbing along the waterfront there in 3 days, prompting safety warnings from police. Now the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team says a 28-year-old man from Surrey is in custody. It's still unclear whether the same suspect was wanted in last Sunday's attack as well. In that case, a South Asian man, also in his late 20s, was left with stab wounds to the neck. A cyber attack has closed each and every London drugstore in the country. For the second straight day, customers have been greeted with locked doors and signs saying the stores are closed because of an operational issue. As John Hernandez is finding out, the BC-based company says customer and employee data appears to be safe and the closures are precautionary.
I need to go to London Drugs, but the London Drugs is closed.
Confusion outside this typically busy London Drugs in Vancouver. Customers running into locked doors while the store's managers tell them that systems are down.
I couldn't go in because their computers don't work.
It was the same story outside all London Drug stores after the company announced it shuttered its doors because of a cyber attack. The incident was first noticed by the company on Sunday. In a statement released Monday, a spokesperson said, quote, "Upon discovering the incident, London Drugs immediately undertook countermeasures to protect its network and data, including retaining leading third-party cybersecurity experts to assist with containment, remediation, and to conduct a forensic investigation." Some customers startled by the security lapse.
It's good that they shut them down just to prevent any more data leaks, but it's not good that technology allowed us to get this far.
London Drugs said it had no reason to believe customer or employee data were affected.
What they might not know is how they got into the network, and that might be part of the reason why they've shut down the stores and the access to the stores.
This cybersecurity expert says pharmacies and other medical centers are becoming an increasingly bigger target for hackers.
Now we're seeing increasing interest in taking medical data because that's really the most sensitive personal data that we have. And that data is being then sold on the dark web and for all intents and purposes laundered and then potentially resold.
As of Monday afternoon, the company said it would temporarily take down its phone lines as part of its investigation. It said pharmacists will remain on site to help with urgent pharmacy needs. There's no timeline for reopening. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Mass demonstrations over the war in Gaza have sprung up at university campuses across the continent, and now they've reached BC as well. An encampment in solidarity with Palestinians has taken over a soccer field at UBC's Vancouver campus. As Michelle Gassoub is finding out, students there say they are ready to stay until their demands are met.
Under morning darkness at the University of British Columbia, tents were erected and signs hung. This encampment, the first of its kind in Western Canada.
We're here, and we're not leaving until the changes have been made. You want to call them demands, you call them whatever you want.
The students here challenging UBC to cut ties with 3 Israeli universities and divest from companies profiting from the war.
Firstly, we are calling for the university to divest from its affiliations with Israeli companies and companies that are weapons companies and are other companies complicit in the genocide. We are also calling for an academic boycott.
I think it is important to stand in solidarity. I think it is important to show up as members of the Jewish community who want to say, not in our name.
For weeks, there has been a mass mobilization of students at universities across the U.S. In some cases, rallies have ended in violent arrests.
I have no reason to doubt that the leadership, both student and administration at UBC, will find that balance between ensuring students are safe and making sure that that atmosphere of free exchange of ideas can continue to take place on campus.
The students here advising against engaging with what they call counter-protesters or agitators.
Now, this encampment is quite organized. They have a library, they have a location where you can drop off food donations, they have speeches that you can probably hear behind us. And everyone who walks into this encampment is welcomed by someone and handed a list of 10 community agreements. These are the rules that you are expected to follow if you are going to participate in this encampment. And on that list is a zero tolerance policy for any form of discrimination. That includes anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. So organizers here very much setting a tone for the behavior they expect for anyone who is going to be participating in this encampment.
UBC said in a statement it values freedom of expression, and all those at the encampment are expected to follow the UBC Code of Conduct. It said it would be liaising with RCMP, though there is no visible police presence at the campus on Monday.
There comes to a point where we have to take these risks and stand for what we believe in.
Day one of a movement that promises to stay as long as it takes. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, the Vancouver School Board has deferred a vote on a motion to look at restricting cell phones in schools. During tonight's meeting, a majority of the school board agreed it required further study. The motion is now being put to the Education Plan Committee. It was filed by School Board Chair Victoria Jung. She argues the board has a responsibility to provide healthy and safe learning environments.
It's not just physical, keeping kids from having fights at recess. It's actually looking at all the different aspects of their learning and their development. And that includes social media and access to digital devices.
The motion comes after the BC government said in January that it was taking steps to limit cell phones in all schools province-wide. If approved, consideration would still be given to students who use their phones for accessibility reasons. Well, the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion is slated to come online May 1st. That's Wednesday. But some First Nations leaders say they're concerned about pollution already impacting the land and wildlife.
My children will not experience what I experienced here. All the creeks, rivers, and streams, no more salmon. They're all polluted. This water, this beach is closed permanent. You know, they say, you know, it's so dirty. And so that's the impact of industry here.
The pipeline expansion ends in Burnaby, and the city says the safety of its residents should have been more closely considered.
You know, 80% of the risk is here in Burnaby. You know, this is where they load the ships. This is where they store the materials. 3 times what they used to store on Burnaby Mountain. And we don't think that there's been enough attention paid to the public safety issues that come along with this pipeline.
Once the project is operational, Trans Mountain will become Canada's only oil pipeline to the West Coast. Well, the province might have tried to change the channel on drug decriminalization, but the topic is certainly still a hot-button issue at the legislature. As Mira Baines explains, the proposal to recriminalize drugs in public spaces is seen by the opposition in Victoria as a failure and simply doesn't go far enough.
Oral questions by members.
More calls from the opposition in the BC legislature to end decriminalization, just a little over 1 year into a 3-year pilot. BC United leader Kevin Falcon says he doesn't believe the changes the province has asked for will reduce public safety issues with the program.
It will make no difference just because in the Premier's own statement he said it will not apply to tent cities, it will not apply to supportive housing projects. I mean, these are some of the places in where much of that chaos is spreading into surrounding communities.
Falcon says drugs should be stigmatized. There are also questions over research into the pilot project and whether it's still worthwhile, given that a change to the program could make it difficult to evaluate its success or failure. Premier David Eby defended the move to recriminalize small amounts of illicit drugs in all public spaces and said valuable overdose data is being collected. He defended decriminalization as a way to destigmatize drug use so people can seek help.
We have asked the federal government to ensure that police have the tools they need to make sure that our parks and our playgrounds, business doorways, downtowns are safe and welcoming for everybody. But we've specifically asked the federal government to continue to ensure that people are encouraged to use overdose prevention sites.
Eby says he has spoken to the Prime Minister about the issue. Federal Mental Health and Addictions Minister Yara Sachs says no decision has been made yet.
We are reviewing the request to the exemption that they put forward to us. We're sitting with Health Canada officials at this time, but we are wholeheartedly committed to continue to work with BC.
Toronto has also requested an exemption from Health Canada, although Ontario Premier Doug Ford has asked for the request to be dropped. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
The federal opposition, meanwhile, is critical of what it calls delays from Ottawa to follow through with reversing those parts of decriminalization. The Conservatives are calling on the Trudeau government to quickly grant BC's request.
That the Trudeau government needs to be held accountable to parliamentarians and are calling on the government to grant this emergency take note debate immediately.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has repeatedly called decriminalization a dangerous experiment and says a Conservative government would pull out of harm reduction strategies. The Tories say they would focus on a recovery-oriented approach, such as connecting people struggling with addiction to housing and detox center options, which is already being done at supervised consumption sites. A temporary policy that allowed international students to work more than 20 hours per week off campus will end tomorrow. It comes as Ottawa clamps down on a surge of international student enrollments across the country. The immigration minister says Canada's rules on work hours need to be in line with other countries, or else more people will apply with the intent to work rather than to study. As of this fall, international students will only be allowed to work 24 hours a week off campus. That's equivalent to 3 full 8-hour shifts. A court hearing that may finally decide the future of policing in Surrey has kicked off. The city wants a Supreme Court judge to overturn a provincial order forcing Surrey to transition to a municipal police force. Our Jason Proctor spoke with Dan Burrett about the hearing and how we got to this point.
Back in 2018, former Mayor Doug McCallum was elected with a promise to transition Surrey from the RCMP to a municipal force. In 2022, Brenda Locke was elected on a promise to do exactly the opposite. And so the transition had already begun. The city of Surrey asked the province if they can stay with the RCMP, and the province basically said last July, finally, no, you can't, and in fact, you have to transition over to a municipal force. And that order, that decision by Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth, is what's at the heart of this proceeding, which is a judicial review. So they're basically, the city's asking to look at that decision, which they say is unreasonable and unfair.
And quickly, what did you hear in court today?
So basically, this was just the beginning. So it's the city of Surrey essentially saying, you know, this is unwarranted and it's not right. You know, it's unreasonable. It's unconstitutional, they say, because essentially you have the democratic will of the voters of Surrey, and you have another level of government undoing the mandate that they gave to their politicians, their council, to make this happen. And so those are some of the arguments that we're going to hear this week.
And lastly, how many days will this run?
It should go for about 5 days. You know, Mayor Brenda Locke was there as well today, along with several other councillors. So a lot of interest in this.
Well, still ahead, as more Canadians stay in the workforce longer, many are discovering their benefits are not keeping up. We'll have that story and explain why next. Welcome back. Canada's average working age has never been older, but many working seniors don't realize their health benefits could significantly decrease once they turn 65. Our Georgie Smythe has more on the impacts of this new reality.
Even though Stephen Booth has passed his 65th birthday, life continues to surprise him. He didn't expect to be still working retail, and he didn't know that, even as he faced illness, he'd lose some of his group benefits.
During that time, depression hit me pretty bad. And so that was just one more thing on top of everything else.
The majority of Canada's private long-term disability plans only pay out to a person's 65th birthday. Even if they continue to work, it's in the fine print.
It's like one day to the next. And it's like, how can that be?
Because government disability plans generally pay less than private plans, it also means less money in Stephen's pocket.
We definitely see more concern about it in times like this.
The coverage ends at 65 because in the past, that's when most people would retire.
That goes back to the majority of plans, government plans and other plans that coordinate with the long-term disability that all end at 65. And that's because for most people, they're eligible to begin their retirement pension at that age.
But some people can't afford to stop working at 65, so they stay in their jobs despite the smaller compensation package. It happened to David Harvey.
From my last years of working, I can see that the employer did not pay me as much in pay and benefits as they provided to my colleagues who were one day under 65 years.
He says older workers shouldn't receive less compensation than their younger colleagues.
It's the first time in my life that I've really felt or understood viscerally what discrimination is about.
Ensuring Canada's workers over 65 would cost more, but as that cohort continues to grow, it's a challenge they say needs to be addressed. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
You're looking at a live shot of BC Place and the Georgia Viaduct. Well, those weekend showers have mostly given way to the weekday sunshine. Darius will have your 5-day forecast on the way next.
I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
With the changes to how Canada is able to access journalism online and on social media, we want to assure you that when you're looking for CBC News, you'll always be able to find us. Local news, breaking stories, and the latest from around the world is at your fingertips any time of the day with the free CBC News app and online at cbcnews.ca. For news you can trust, download the CBC News app and stay connected wherever you are.
Well, hockey fans in this city are ecstatic after the Canucks pulled off a 3-1 series lead over the weekend. Edzio Leverin caught up with fans to learn about the ins and outs of their game day rituals.
Canucks have pulled ahead of the Predators in their first round series of the playoffs. Hopes are high, spirits are high. Let's talk to some fans. Are you a hockey fan?
We are. Are you?
I am a hockey fan. I have my Canucks nails on. So you're rooting for the Canucks?
Might be rooting for the Canucks. They break my heart. Every so often, do they break you guys' heart?
Do you have any game day rituals that you adhere to?
No, not really. No.
No socks?
No socks, no superstitions, no nothing.
We always had our jerseys on to watch the games, yeah.
And the towels. We always try to collect all the towels. It's been a few years, but we finally came all the way over here from Gibson's to get a towel.
Yeah, pizza. Pizza. So like every game you have pizza?
Yeah.
You buy a towel every playoff game?
Every playoff game.
Every time they make the playoffs, yeah, we got a
we have assortment. Yeah.
Sometimes we go fancy, but like mostly Domino's. Yesterday was a fancy pizza, so maybe yeah.
So fancy pizza next game too?
Yes, definitely. We're gonna keep to that.
So do you get pineapple pizza every time the Canucks are playing?
Sometimes change it up, but yeah, no. Usually it's staple.
What's the data? Like, do they win when you get Hawaiian?
I find they do, yeah.
I'm positive that second goal for Nashville was kicked in.
It was a dance move. It was just a little, boop.
A dance move?
Yeah, just a little shuffle.
But it was a pretty darn exciting 4 minutes of hockey to get 3 goals.
What was your favorite part of the game last night?
Oh, the overtime, the goal. It was just so cool.
Is it too soon to make any predictions for the playoffs?
The Canucks are going to win tomorrow, so then they'll have a little break before they hit the next round.
All right, predictions made. Thank you so much. Take care.
Cheers.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi is here with a look at the forecast. And Darius, after a showery weekend, we saw that sun come out again here in Vancouver. Kind of nice.
Oh, yes, and it's going to be out for a while yet. Our shower activity, as you can see here, is more or less over after we got some snow for the local mountains over the weekend, which was nice. Up at Whistler, for sure, we got a decent fall. And now we're going to see that shower activity continue to taper off, maybe in the early morning hours tomorrow when people are just getting up and heading to work. A few showers, especially at those higher elevations in Metro Vancouver, but generally speaking, just drying out over the next few days. Pretty much after that brief shower possible tomorrow morning, there's no other precipitation activity expected for Vancouver. And in fact, very little cloud as well, most of that clearing out by tomorrow, sort of mid-afternoon as well, for pretty much across the region. So don't expect to see much cloud over the next few days as that continues to go. If we zoom out to the rest of the province, you'll see we do still have some showery activity in some places, but you'll notice up in the northeast where we have had that weather warning, that snowfall warning around 5 to as much as 15 centimeters in these areas up in the northeast, especially in the Peace, where again, you can really use the snow. That is going to be, that is clearing out now, or has cleared out already, and we're not going to see much more activity there for quite a while. Now, the precipitation there was especially good news. I know here on the coast, people were maybe getting sick of it after a week straight. I think we got a little bit too used to the sun, but more sun is on the way, and again, a good precipitation, good news up there, especially as those winds calm down after this morning. Now, if we turn to temperatures, still a little bit below seasonal across the south, and especially up in the north, the Peace, a major temperature drop as that system rolled through. Temperatures across the province going to come up over the next few days as we see that high pressure system set up, keeping us sunny and dry and warming. So expect, just very calm conditions for most places over the next few days. Now, this might not look calm, but this is a very small chance of precipitation across these regions. And in fact, besides these clouds, there's going to be plenty of sunshine in these places as well, besides a risk of a thunderstorm in some places like the Thompson and some parts of the Okanagan tomorrow. Besides that, here in Vancouver, nothing but sunny skies ahead as the cloud clears out tomorrow. It's the last we see of it for a while. for those showers to return just in time for the weekend.
Just like a typical April-May forecast, that back and forth. Thank you so much, Darius.
Thank you.
And that is your late news for this Monday. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Thanks so much for being with us. Have a great night.